Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, 2K crew? It is that time of the week again. Yes, it is podcast day, and man, I am pumped up. I am pumped up. We've got baseball going right now. We've got the Tigers at the Rangers. Yes, you heard that right, ladies and gentlemen. The Tigers have prime time yet again, and there's another one against the Phillies, I believe, next month that was already uh reassigned. Trying to think of the word. The word is escaping me right now. Flex. There we go. It was Flex 2 in prime time next month. So I don't think the Tigers are a secret anymore, ladies and gentlemen. I think the rest of the baseball community, the rest of the world has kind of seen that this team isn't, it isn't a joke. I think they're finally coming to terms with how good this team really is. And I, for one, am super, super excited about it. But that's not all we're going to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about the Open. I've got some news. We're going to talk not so much the Open, but Scotty. Yes, he did it again. It seems like every single, like 3 weeks, this dude is winning a major tournament. And I, for one, I'm all for it. We're gonna put it into context, compare him and Tiger. I know everyone does that, but I did find some stuff that's actually pretty cool, and we're gonna kind of put that into perspective. I hope a little bit. And no, I'm not saying that Scotty is overtaking Tiger by any means. It's kind of cool to see the progress, as you know, how many starts they've had compared to each other. But like I said, we'll get into that, and we'll get into the MLB trade deadline. MLB trade deadline. Who's going where, who's available. I did a lot of research before the show and then forgot to bring up the tabs, so bear with me here. But yeah, we're gonna get into all that, and I've got some cool news and as always, a nice little Tony Gwynn nugget. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into today's show. Let's get into it. And first of all, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you that take time out of your day to watch us live. And if you're catching this on the replay, thank you so much. We've got folks over on Twitter watching us live. We have folks from YouTube watching us live. And we have folks from our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/2K crew. Answer a couple questions to make sure that I know you are not a robot and you're in. You're in. And for the folks listening over on the podcast side, whether you have us in your ears on the treadmill or in the car, thank you for bringing us along. Thank you for, because you guys and gals are the original 2K crew, the OGs, if you will. So yeah, I am super excited to get into this. So let's start off with some news. And if you remember last week, 2Ks and I kind of talked about briefly, I think the quarterbacks. The show on Netflix. Absolutely awesome. If you haven't watched that, highly recommend it. Omaha Productions yet again hits another not even a home run, a grand slam. This is the season 2 of quarterbacks. If you remember, 2 years ago they did quarterbacks. Last year they did receivers. This year they went back to quarterbacks. And man, oh man, one of those guys featured on that show was Jared Goff, and there's some big news in the Goff household. This is from the St. Brown podcast. Jared Goff, elite quarterback and now girl dad. So Jared, congratulations to you and your family on a lovely baby girl. How awesome is that? And for those Lions fans, there was some other not so good news. Lions defensive tackle Levi Onwuzurike underwent surgery for a torn ACL and is out for the season, per Detroit head coach Dan Campbell. Now, this is big news, obviously. Season hasn't even started. Training camp, mini camp's kind of started, but we haven't even really gotten into the meat and potatoes of everything, and we're seeing not only this gentleman, but other folks going down with injuries already. It's a shame, but I know for Lions fans, a lot of you are, here we go again. Because if you remember last year, this defense was a skeleton crew. And if you did watch the quarterback show, you get the behind the scenes where, in the meeting, Dan Campbell kind of talks about this and says, "Hey guys, offense, I'm gonna need you. we're going for it on fourth down every chance we get. I don't care if it's 4th and 20. We're going to have to score points to win this game. We're going to have to score points, a lot of points here on out, and ultimately fell short in the playoffs. But it's one of those snake bitten type feelings that the Lions fans are kind of feeling. Had their center retire, and the rock of the offensive line retire. And not only, and then if you pair that with this injury, paired with both coordinators gone, lots of moving and shaking over there in Detroit. But with Dan Campbell manning the helm, I really don't foresee this to be any sort of hiccups. I have a feeling there will be some little bit of growing pains, right at the beginning, but I really don't foresee this to be a huge setback. Even with that, we can now say very competitive NFC North. And because rewind a couple years ago, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. And, not only the Lions, but the Bears, they got the Lions offensive coordinator as the head coach, Ben Johnson. How is that going to work? How's that going to work? We've got Jordan Love. This is year 3, I believe, under him. What steps are they going to take to get that team to the next level? And then in Minnesota, it's the J.J. McCarthy era. Sam Darnold is no longer there. How will he fare? How will that offense fare? From the sounds of it, anyone throwing to Justin Jefferson, probably going to be pretty good. Just don't turn the ball over, and I think that team will be very successful. So that's a long-winded way of saying I don't, Lions fans, step away from the ledge. Step away. I know it sounds like this is kind of old hat. We've been there. We've seen this movie. But you're getting Hutchinson back. That's huge. Not only talent-wise, leader of the defense, but he's coming back. And everything that I've read says that he's going to be a full go for training camp and for the from here on out. So add Anzalone healthy. There's a lot of guys that were banged up and missed good parts of that season last year are back and healthy. So yes, this does suck. Is it the end of the world? No, definitely not the end of the world. So that's going to be our NFL talk for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. So, but we're just getting out of the All-Star break, and it seems like every week we can throw up an Ohtani stat. Ohtani is the unicorn. He is, something that baseball fans have never seen, and it seems to me that every time you turn around, there's an oh shit, what did he do? And where does this rank? And at this point, I'm sure a lot of people have kind of Ohtani hangovers. It's like, okay, they're basically just tired of hearing his name, tired of seeing him. But I'm not, and I found this and was just shocked. This is from Baseball History Nut. Again, as a baseball fan, if you do not follow this account on Twitter, you should. He says, not human. And the picture says, this is insane. Through 955 games, Babe Ruth hit 240 home runs. Shohei Ohtani, 257. Ken Griffey Jr. had 551 RBIs. Shohei Ohtani has 627. Through 91 starts, Nolan Ryan had 607 Ks. Ohtani has 618. Clayton Kershaw posted an ERA of 3.16. And Shohei Ohtani, 2.97. Again, what can't this guy do? What can't this guy do? And I sit back and I'm like, okay, what would, he's done this. What would make me go, holy shit? Like, it seems like this dude can do absolutely everything. And I think that, the Ohtani fatigue is a real thing, is absolutely a real thing. Now, I think what would be the Mount Everest, as if he hasn't done enough, but I think the Mount Everest would be, okay, Shohei, win me an MVP and a Cy Young in the same year. And if you follow this program for any amount of time, I really don't even want to see him pitch anymore. I mean, that's brass tacks, my honest opinion. When you can give me 50-50 every year or thereabout, to me, that's way more important, way more impactful than, a number 3 or number 4 pitcher. And before everyone jumps down my throat, I completely understand the pitching woes the Dodgers have. I get it. Blake Snell's coming back. You're seeing a lot of Tyler Glasnow's coming back, so you're seeing a lot of the reinforcements that the Dodgers were hoping to get coming back. So is that rotation still awesome? No, not until these guys get back to their Cy Young form for Blake Snell, and at one time a Cy Young hopeful in Glasnow. Give me that. Yeah, I'm super stoked for that. But as a Dodgers fan, am I sitting back here going, okay, the savior of the season is going to be Shohei taking the ball every 5 days? Nope. And if you are, I think you're a little, I'm not going to say delusional, but you're kind of missing the picture. At at what point, I would much rather have a fresh Ohtani every day, DH, like I said, hitting 50-50, hitting close to 300, over 100 RBIs. Give me that guy. To me, that version of Ohtani is more impressive and better than, 30 stolen bases, 30 home runs, and, a 10-4 record. I don't know. Just throwing some numbers out there. But yeah, I've been on the side of just give me Ohtani. Let him. I just want to see him hit. But those stats, I mean that's hard to argue. Speaking of stats, there's another one from Baseball's Greatest Moments. And again, if you follow the show for any amount of time, I love to throw in a little Tony Gwynn nugget here and there. But Tony Gwynn has 297 3-hit games and only 1 3-strikeout games. There's not a player in today's MLB that could even sniff this. Strikeouts are a lot less important now, or a lot less, the emphasis on not striking out is way different now than it was then. But Tony Gwynn was a thing of beauty to watch hit. And, rest in peace, my friend. And I saw this next one and immediately thought of my buddy Jay Stone. Jay Stone is the king of baseball movies, in particular Sandlot. But this one, we're not going to talk about Sandlot. We're going to talk about another one. Again, this is from baseball. This one's from Baseball History Nut. The mom from Little Big League, Ashley Crow, is the actual mom of Cubs Pete Crow Armstrong. And if you look at those pictures, yeah, you can definitely see it. And I also wanted to put this up here because my Red Sox, just kept serving this gentleman up home runs last night, and I made fun of his earrings, and Jay Stone came back and said he can wear whatever he wants to if he hits me 2 bombs a game. And Jay Stone, I can't argue that. I honestly can't argue that. So PCA, keep doing what you're doing, dude, because you're doing it good. Okay, I think that's all of the news nuggets I had. So let's talk some Scotty. Let's talk some Open. First things first, beautiful course. The biggest takeaway I took from the actual course itself is when they were some of the shots where the camera was in like the middle of the fairway looking back towards the tee box, and you would see actual farms and countryside behind them. You don't see that in the States. You just don't. And I thought that was extremely cool. It kind of gives it the, hey, we're out in the middle of nowhere vibe, but it's the course. I mean, it has to be pristine because it's one of the majors. They've hosted it before. So that was my biggest takeaway. I just thought it was really cool. It has nothing to do actually with the tournament, just kind of the way my brain is wired. And I thought it was cool because that's something we don't see especially when we're talking golf on TV. Now, golf around here, yeah, you'll see fields, you'll see cornfields, you'll see barns, you'll see farms, but not around any of the courses that you're going to see on TV here in the States. So again, I just thought that was cool. Just thought that was cool. And getting to Scotty, I sent my buddy Jake a message, and I want to get the timestamp on here. I sent this to him July 18th at 2:04. And it just says Scotty is so fucking good. And this was kind of on the verge of him making that run. And after I sent Jake that message, it was the Scotty show. I mean, I cannot remember a player on this big of a heater. I mean, granted, yes, I grew up in Tiger's prime. I get, and we'll get to that, but this guy's the total package. He can bomb it off the tee. He can shape any shot that he wants. He can stick it. He can bump and run. And he drains 15 footers like most tour players drain 5 footers. It's just phenomenal. And I know lately he's caught heat about how, he doesn't have that killer Tiger instinct. He's like, yeah, winning this is cool, but my biggest win is being a dad. And for those of you that ridiculed and mocked and just threw shade on him, how dare you? How dare you? The man is a proud father. The thing that sticks out to him the most is being a father. And for him to publicly come out and say that, who cares? Just, the athletes don't have to live, breathe every minute of the day their sport to be successful. And I guarantee whatever mindset that he's in, we should all try to emulate, because that tiger mindset, the mama mentality, whatever Brady, when they're locked in, there's only so many people that can actually, get to that level. And we see them quite regularly. And those that do usually dominate their sport. But for Scotty to have this mentality, this type of, kind of juice, it's more relatable to you and I. Absolutely. For those of you that do have kids, look back at your, the greatest moments of your life. If your kid's being born isn't up there, I don't know what to tell you. And this is coming from a guy who doesn't have any biological kids. So if I look at it that way, just goes to show you, I'm not alone in this. All my friends that do have kids say the exact same thing. So for those of you that are down, that are just throwing shade at this man, stop. But on the golf course, this dude, like I said, I watched Tiger's dominance, and yes, Tiger made it look easy, but Scotty just has just a whole different vibe, a whole different aura, just the way he goes about things. And I'm not saying one's better than the other. They're both impressive to watch. But man, as golf fans, we should really, really take a step back and be like, man, we really are lucky. We are extremely lucky to watch Tiger do his thing for so long. And now we're getting to see Scotty do his thing, which is going to lead me to my first Scotty tweet here. This is from Kyle Porter. Shout out at Kyle Porter NS over on Twitter. Scotty from 2022 to 2025, 81 events, 20 wins, 4 majors, 2 players, 2.8 SG per round. Tiger from 2002 to 2005, 79 events, 18 wins, 4 majors, 0 players, 2.8 SG per round. And I Googled how old Tiger was in 2000. Nope, let's save that for the next one. So yes, just the kind of dominance in 81 events to 79 events just kind of puts into perspective, because Tiger in this span, untouchable, absolutely untouchable. That was back in the day when, we're seeing this happen with Scotty now. Is when we lead up to a tournament that Tiger was playing in, whether it be the majors or any of the other ones, which towards the end was just seemed like to be the majors, which is fine. The kind of the running bet was, are you taking Tiger or the field? And if FanDuel, DraftKings, any of that was around back then, I have a very good feeling that those odds were probably going to be pretty even. Probably going to be pretty even though you're taking one guy against 72, 75, however many golfers are in the field. That's insane. And Scotty's kind of getting a lot of that same treatment. Whereas, are you taking Scotty or are you taking the field? Now, I know there's going to be the person to say, well, Turbo, excuse me, the competition now is way better, which you're right. You're 100% right. But Tiger played with some dogs too. Tiger played with some Hall of Famers. And all the, many people have said it, and I've even said it on this show, that golfers now can thank Tiger for what they have, purse wise, fitness wise. Tiger made that cool. Tiger made that cool. Tiger made golf cool for a lot of people that if there wasn't a Tiger Woods, would have never gotten into golf. And one of the cool parts about now, like 2025 and beyond, is we're getting to see the personalities of these golfers. We're getting to see, a little bit more behind the scenes, whether that's the Netflix specials or any amount of social media. I mean, Bryson is like the golf king on YouTube. Yes, I know Rick Shields has done it for way longer, but just the cart cams and everything that he's doing, Phil Mickelson's doing it. So we're getting a lot more access to these golfers, which is awesome. So they're taking what Tiger did, and Tiger made golf cool. And now we're getting to see what it takes to be a PGA Tour pro. What's going through their mind. Yes, they're real people. They are real people. And anytime we get to see kind of that behind the scenes, what makes them tick type videos, that's the reason why these Omaha productions are doing so great. Is not they show very little on the field stuff. It's the stuff we can't see on TV that we're all enamored with, myself included. So the PGA and Live generation right now, whether they know it or not, are shaping the next generation of golf fan and further enriching the golf fan that's my age to love the game even more, which is awesome. Well, let's get back to Scotty here. Here's another one. Tiger's first major win, 1997 Masters. Tiger's fourth major win, 2000 Open, 1,194 days apart. Scotty's, this is from Claire Rogers at K Claire Rogers on Twitter. Big shout out to her. Scotty's first major win, 2022 Masters. Scotty's fourth major win, 2025 Open, 1,194 days apart. Now, this is where I Googled how, because I knew there was going to be someone ask the question. And the thing that, because everyone's like, well, Scotty's on this, is on this tear. He's going to, excuse me. He's going to blow past Tiger. He's going to go, he's going to blow past Jack. Hold on. In 2000, Tiger was 25 years old. Right now in 2025, Scotty's 29. So there's 4 years apart. Could it still happen? Anything's possible. But what I'm saying is that Tiger's run started earlier in his life, in his career, as compared to Scotty. So that's going to be, I have a feeling, going to hinder or be the biggest roadblock when it comes to Scotty getting into that GOAT conversation, like the legitimate GOAT conversation. He's the best going right now. Yes, by all means. By all means. But it's, at least to me, it's very cool to be like, okay, how ironic. 1,197 days between both of their first major and their fourth major. Just pretty cool. Just pretty cool. Just pretty cool. And that if you haven't seen the video of his son running towards him on the green, watch the video. It is awesome. It is awesome. In his little Nike jumper, it's awesome. Absolutely awesome. All right. Let's talk some major league trades, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk some major league trades. That's why I have a feeling that's why you're here. What in the world? There it is. No, that's all right. Like I said, I got everything prepped except for this, and you know what? That's kind of the whole premise of the show here. Well, let's start off with this is a tweet by Underdog over on Twitter. Trade deadline updates per Bob Nightingale, and this was today. According to Bob Nightingale, the Athletics won't trade closer Mason Miller. Cardinals could trade Ryan Helsley. At least 5 contenders have shown interest. Diamondbacks want pitching in return for trades. Guardians plan to keep Emmanuel Clase, which 2Ks and I talked about last week. Nationals have made Kyle Finnegan, Josh Bell, Ahmad Rosario, Mike Soroka, Nathaniel Lowe all available for trade. Twins are expected to keep Joe Ryan, but will listen to offers. So what does all that mean? What does all that mean? Well, let's see here. I really wish I had saved that website. Oops, nope. Because we really haven't seen, yes, the, we've, even on this show, we've talked about the Devers trade ad nauseum. There have been a couple little ones here and there that have, some bullpen help, things of that nature, but there really hasn't been any bombshells. We've had the Red Sox management saying they're going to be extremely active. We've heard the Yankees say the same thing. There's teams that even right now on July 20th, yes, trade deadline is on the 31st. They really don't know which way their team's going. And this is one of the, once they added the third wild card to the mix on each side, it gave more teams hope that they could squeak in. It gave teams more, they're holding their players closer to the vest rather than, shopping them like years previous with just the 2. And that obviously was by design. That was by design. Excuse me. And I tried to get the most up-to-date stuff here. But quite honestly, the bell of the ball is, let's see here. This is from Jeff Passan. The new number 1 in our trade deadline rankings that drop tomorrow. Eugenio Suarez is on an absolute heater right now. 4 home runs in the last 2 days. Now up to 35 on the season, only behind Cal Raleigh and Aaron Judge in all of MLB. So what does that mean? That means that Mr. Suarez is the belle of the ball as it is right now. Could there be some bigger names that were not even on anyone's radar? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, there's even, there's names in Boston that I trust that it's pretty much half and half. There's half of them that are saying that Jaron Duran will be moved, and there's half that said that he won't. And as we saw, especially today, where oh shit, we saw today with just a jumbled lineup. Yes, they won. Yes, they won. But we're Cedon Rafaela should not be at second base. Rafaela should be in center where he belongs. And the only way to really accommodate this, and God forbid it happens, is the only way that this works, that the way the roster is assembled right now, is one of the corner outfielders has to go. And it's kind of hard to say that when Wilyer Abreu hit 2 home runs today and leads the team in home runs, and ironically enough, bypassed Rafi Devers in home runs today. Kind of kind of hard to say that he's the guy that has to go. Yes, I know Roman Anthony's power numbers aren't there, but put him at left. And we talked about it last week. As much as I love Duran, he's not a left fielder. If anything, he's a center fielder. He played very well in center field last year. And the reason he's not there is Rafaela is there. And Trevor Story has been healthy. Otherwise, Rafaela would have been could have been slotted into that shortstop spot. However, Meyer is there, so the likelihood of that probably not good at this point. So logjam is definitely a term that a lot of folks have been throwing around, and it just stinks because yes, the Devers trade, the most tenured guy on the team, the highest paid player on the team, and now if they do move Duran, now you're talking about kind of the vibes guy. Every team needs a vibes guy, but vibes guys are easier to replace than anything else. Yes, part of being a successful baseball team, because you're together 180 days out of the year, nonstop. Vibes guys are way important. But when the vibes guy is blocking the next face of the franchise, I think the writing's kind of on the wall. I think the writing's on the wall. And we talked about, the availability of Bo Bichette with the Tigers wanting to add a bat. And I have a very good feeling now that the Blue Jays are sitting atop the AL East, they're going to be buyers. They're not going to be sellers. We all thought that they were going to have to blow this team up to have any sort of success. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. So I think to see here, the Blue Jays are sitting atop the AL East, but they have a 2-game lead over the Yankees and a 5-game lead over the Red Sox. And Toronto really isn't, or they've tried to get the big name guys over there, so much that they overpaid for Vladdy Jr. to keep him there, because no one else would want to take their money. No one else wanted. They tried to get Ohtani. Nope. They tried to get Juan Soto. Nope. So what's the next best thing? We'll just overpay for Vladdy Jr. Now, if they do end up keeping Bo Bichette, does that mean they're going to extend him next year? Or, re-sign him? Who knows? Who knows? And that's the thing with the trade deadline that I don't think a lot of folks really, because everyone wants the new shiny thing. Give whatever prospects, give me that shiny thing, and let's go win a World Series. Total Dave Dombrowski mentality, which wins. Dombrowski's won titles everywhere he's went. So it's kind of hard to argue with that logic. However, living through it as a Red Sox fan and as, 2Ks with it, being a Tigers fan, once he's gone, your minor league cupboard is bare. And it takes many years to get that built back up. And when we talk about a lot of these teams, such as the Cardinals, for instance. Okay, if the Cardinals are going to be sellers, which it doesn't, I've heard people saying that yes, they are going to be, to people are saying no, they're content with the way the roster is right now and might dabble in a little bit of buying. But with all of these projected moves, where does it leave you in 2026, in 2027? Because like we've talked about with baseball in particular, you can't trade draft picks. You trade prospects. And the likelihood of a prospect hitting, who knows? Their prospects are lottery tickets. Now, we've seen some. We've talked about the Juan Soto trade ad nauseum. Washington hit pretty darn good on their lottery tickets. And Mackenzie Gore has become there's been a lot of rumors flying around Twitter about Mr. Gore as a possible trade piece. If I'm the Nats, I'm keeping him. I'm keeping him. Just because the haul that you got for Juan Soto is paying dividends. I mean, not in wins, but we saw James Wood in the All-Star game. And in next year, a year after, we might see Mackenzie Gore there too. We might see C.J. Abrams. We might see all three. Who knows? Who knows? I think it's more of an organizational thing rather than a player thing, but that's neither here nor there. But the pieces are there. So if you are the Nationals, do you trade Mackenzie Gore? And that's where a lot of these teams are, and which is making it so hard to kind of, I hate to say predict, because that's, if you're here for predictions, I mean, Turbo and 2K show predictions are hardly ever right. Hardly ever right. If nothing else, we give the teams we're pumping and the players we're pumping kind of bad juju. So whatever we say, do the opposite. It seems to work out a whole lot better. But Suarez is kind of the talk of the town, along with his two other buddies over there in Arizona, Zach Gallen and a couple other pitchers over there. It kind of looks like it's, I'm not going to say a fire sale, but kind of seems like it is. Seth Lugo for the Royals. That Royals team is, I can't really explain why they're not doing better than they are. But is it time to do a soft reset there? And again, you move Seth Lugo. What does that pitching staff look like next year? Minnesota Twins. We talked about Joe Ryan, even though Underdog and Bob Nightingale say the likelihood of Joe Ryan being moved is very small, but they're listening. So there's definitely going to be a chance. And with it being a seller's market right now, if you're one of these teams that are buying, are you willing to give up a major prospect, one of your top 2 or 3 prospects, and with a player like Ryan, you're getting 2 more years of control after this one. Jarren Duran, I believe, is 3 years after. So you're not getting essentially a rental, kind of like we're used to seeing. A player with an expiring contract, get him, this team isn't going anywhere. Instead of letting him walk, let's at least get a couple lottery tickets. See if we can't hit. And that's essentially what Suarez is. He's a guy on an expiring deal. And teams like the Tigers, teams like the Yankees, very interested. And when you have a piece that is that valuable, I'm sure the Diamondbacks are sitting back, feet propped up on the desk going, okay, we kind of have a little bidding war here, or we should stoke this fire a little bit and maximize every single prospect that we can get. Let's get the biggest haul. And by all means, they should. One of the teams that is extremely extremely interesting to me is the Padres. And call me a homer, but part of it is their extreme interest in Jarren Duran. The Padres have a lot of good pieces. There's even been rumors of Fernando Tatis being available. Don't know how true they are. That is a very, very big contract. And for something like that to move at the deadline, probably not going to happen. But if you would have talked to me prior to the Devers trade, I would have said there's no way he's going anywhere, especially with that contract. Very similar contracts. So the pieces there are they're 3.5 games back of the Dodgers. Seems to me like they would want to be adding pieces to the major league roster instead of selling. I was trying to think of a way cooler word there, but it just wasn't coming. But could the Padres be kind of in, they're buying a little bit, selling a little bit, similar to what the Tigers did last year, similar to what the Red Sox did last year, even though what the Red Sox did not pan out whatsoever. But could that be the play? And from what I'm reading, the only team that's kind of like, yep, these, show me what you got, because there's only 1 or 2 players on the whole squad that are off limits. And that's the Diamondbacks. That is the Diamondbacks. Let me see here. Yep, the Yankees are definitely in on Suarez. Especially since they just DFA'd DJ LeMahieu. Another team that is kind of showing their hand is the Pirates. I mean, if you scrolled Twitter for any amount of time, there's been 9 billion. Who says no first? Here's our haul that we'll give you for Paul Skeens. There is no way the Pirates trade Paul Skeens now. As much of a storyline as it would be, as much of a, and yes, I get it. It has to be frustrating as hell for him. But there is a reason why they were picking number 1 overall 2 years ago. And most of the time when you're picking number 1 overall, the next year, you're not much better. And simply the fact that he made it to the big leagues in just a short amount of time is phenomenal. And I have a feeling that we're going to see that happen, especially with pitchers, a lot more often. But that's neither here nor there. But they're actively, it seems like Skeens and I've even heard a little scuttlebutt over Cabrian Hayes. Reynolds and Skeens are what the two that I've seen that are kind of like the do not touch. Everyone else, and O'Neal Cruz, sorry, but anyone else, open for business. Open for business. I've seen a lot of mock trades involving the A's and Brett Rooker. I don't think Brett Rooker's going anywhere. That would be a total shock considering he just signed a contract extension last year, I think. Granted, very team friendly. Would not be that hard to move that contract, and I have a very, very good feeling that the Atlanta Braves are not going to be, we're not going to see a big fire sale in Atlanta. I really don't. Acuna staying. There might be some little bits and pieces that you see for expiring contracts. Go here, go there. Speaking of Acuna, if you didn't see that throw that he made the other night, geez, oh Pete, go look it up after watching this video. Go look it up after the show. And then today he hits an absolute tank job. So I have a feeling Atlanta will be actively trying to extend him, not trade him. But the Braves have holes. And like I said, you're not when it comes to the trade deadline, you're not when you're a team like the Braves who's essentially out of it. Would it kill you to offload some expiring contracts? No, no. But Acuna is not one of those guys. He's not one of those guys. We talked about kind of what most people were saying that is going to be the big piece is Sandy Alcantara, and at this point, I'm not sure who would take him. And if the Marlins do trade him, I have a feeling that they might get some big league chew in a bucket of balls. But if that's what they want, if there's a team like the Cubs who think that the Cubs need pitching, even though they did quite a job on my Red Sox this weekend. But if they, we talked about it last week a little bit. New surroundings might be the thing that changes them. Who knows? I do think the White Sox are going to be active in the selling department. I do think Luis Robert finally gets some new scenery. That's pretty much a foregone conclusion from what I hear, but it's just going to be, and again, seller's market. There's going to be quite a handful of teams waiting and talking to the White Sox about his services. So that should not be a shock. Now, do the White Sox wish he was playing better, which he has been of late? He has been of late. How much is that going to impact the potential move here? I don't know. I don't know. But I have a feeling if you were to interview the brass in Chicago and in Miami, saying do you wish you would have traded these guys in the offseason? The answer would have been an astounding absolutely, absolutely, because they have gone nowhere but down. And kind of the team that I was basing this whole argument around is the Baltimore Orioles. They have so many young kids. So many young kids. Now Mullins, on the other hand, I think his time in Baltimore is done. Which kind of sucks because he's kind of like the elder statesman there. He was there way before all these kids started coming up. So he went through the bad seasons. He's been with them through the good seasons. This one now is bad again. And he is one of those expiring contracts, so the likelihood of him leaving Baltimore is very good. Like I said, just as a person, it stinks because a guy puts that much time in there, sees very little success. I kind of have a soft spot. I'll be the first to admit it. I have a soft spot for players like that have put their time in, put their dues in, and now, stuff like this happens, and they're the first ones to go, not these kids, which rightfully so. But I always have a little soft spot for that. Always have a soft spot. And the Brewers are rumored to be sellers. The Brewers are not going to sell. They are tied atop the NL Central with the Cubs. Kind of a shocking move here that they've won 10 in a row. And the Cubs going 6-4 over that same span. You kind of gain some ground when you do that. So yeah, this now are the Brewers going to be extremely active? That's going to be that's the question. That's the question. Because let's check the wild card here. The Brewers have the number one wild card seed, followed by the Mets and the Padres if the season were to end today. Giants are 2.5 back, Reds are 2.5 back, Cardinals 3.5 back, and I think that's right where you draw that line. That even though the Diamondbacks are on that list, but like we've already talked about, I don't think a lot of those guys are going to be there. Corbin Carroll will still be there, obviously, but when you're actively looking to trade the guy who has the third most home runs in Major League Baseball, that's a white flag. That's a white flag right there. And then after the Diamondbacks drops off to the Marlins, and then so on. And as far as on the American League side, I think The Yankees, Mariners, and Red Sox would, if the season ended today, would all be going to the playoffs. The Rays are a game and a half back, and Texas is 3. And I think after that Texas spot, everyone below that, I'm pretty sure you're going to see some movement of players there. Um, but as far as like the big ticket guys, you know, we talked about Seth Lugo. We talked about, obviously about Suarez, Mitch Keller, maybe um, the 2 pitchers for the Diamondbacks. But like I said, it's and for the guys who do this, for guys and gals that do this trade deadline stuff for a living, more power to you. Kudos to you to be that plugged in to all of these teams, or maybe just a handful, and trying to decipher what's truth, what's BS. I don't think I have the patience nor the ability to do that. So good on you guys and gals that do that and give us stuff to talk about on a podcast like this. But it would be cool to see the Tigers be able to get Suarez because it fills an immediate need. And yes, we're sitting here talking about, now here's one tweet that I did not show, which I thought was kind of cool, because we've been blowing the Tigers for having the best record in baseball for the longest time, and they are no longer the best team in baseball. This is from Codify. Dodgers are 59-40, Cubs are 59-40, Brewers are 59-40. All tied for the best record in baseball. Now, what in that little stat, or that little tweet that I just showed you, what's missing from that? What's missing from that? Oh, I don't know. An American League team. The top teams in all of baseball are National League teams. We've got Toronto at 58-41. Tigers at 59-40. Which the Tigers could still be the best team in baseball, I guess, if they win tonight. They'd be the first team to 60 wins. But the top teams are in the National League, which is even more. It just kind of muddies this water even more if you're a fan of any team in the American League, because the American League is wide open. Absolutely, completely wide open. And just let me get back to that wild card here. Let's just say hypothetically, and they've been rumored to be buyers, are the Los Angeles Angels. And they're 4 games back of that third wild card spot. Now, mind you, they are 49-50. So 1 game under 500, 4 games out of a wild card spot. And if you kind of project that 4 games back to the National League, Arizona's 50-50 with a 4.5. They're 4.5 back. So just the kind of jumbled up mess that all of Major League Baseball is. However, seems to me like the National League seems to be where all the better teams are. This convoluted just mess, this muddy mess and all the kids are saying, well, baseball is just mid. Well, that makes it awesome, doesn't it? Doesn't that make it more interesting? Doesn't that make you kind of want to, hold off if your team is kind of leaning towards selling? Like, okay, this team could get on a run. This team could win, 7 out of the next 10. And next thing you know, we're 1 game back of that final wild card spot, which is going to happen to at least 1 or 2 teams prior to the deadline on the 31st. There's going to be teams that everyone thinks are going to be buyers that end up selling because the team goes on a horrific 6 or 7 game slide leading up to that. And it's just the kind of the state that's 2025 baseball. That's just, it is what it is. And I for one think it's fun. It's a lot more fun. It's always more fun when your team has a chance to go to the postseason. It's always more fun when you're paying attention to your team longer and longer and longer throughout the season, because you know that in one weekend they could jump two teams and get into that, or that third wild card spot, or be 2 games out, where prior you were 5. So I have seen things on Twitter that are saying this is outrageous. They need to go back to the fewer wild, or the fewer playoff teams, which prior to implementing this, I was right there with you. It seems like every single league wants more and more teams in the playoffs, and that's for a reason. It's money, because the more teams that make the playoffs, the more fan bases are engaged, which means more money for insert name of a league. And baseball was kind of that last one to where it was more exclusive to get into the playoffs. Basketball and hockey seems like 3/4 of the league make the playoffs. Football, it seems like, I'm not saying it's as drastic, but they've even expanded the wild card. Baseball has as well. And 2 years ago we saw two wild card teams play for the World Series, which is awesome. And now it's awesome the way it is now. We don't need any more. We don't need any more, because then we're getting just completely more towards the NBA and NHL. We don't need 3/4 of the teams making the playoffs. There's already enough. But that's kind of led to this jumbled, and it when the teams are closer, ranked closer together, in my eyes, that means they're more that you're going to have more competitive games. There isn't going to be these 1 or 2 or 3 teams that just stand out from everyone else, and we're just waiting for those teams to play in the playoffs. Now we kind of are seeing that in the National League, but not really. Not really. The Tigers have the biggest lead in their division at 10.5. The Jays have a 3-game lead over the Yankees. The Astros have a 4-game lead over the Mariners, which the Mariners are going to be the sneaky dark horse team out of all these teams, 2K crew. Their pitching is going to be healthy here in a couple weeks. They're going to have all of their pitchers back. And if Suarez ends up at the Mariners, watch out, Houston. Watch out. And then we go to the National League. Philly has a half-game lead over the Mets. The Cubs are tied with the Brewers, and the Dodgers are 3.5 games up on the Padres. Now, after those first 2 teams in each division, then it kind of falls off. But having those, because I remember vividly growing up, there would be one division in each league just be an absolute mess, and the other 2 were kind of predetermined. And we're not seeing that in 2025. Even with the Dodgers' multi-billion-dollar payroll, they're only 3.5 games up with the Padres. This was a team that everyone was talking about was going to win 120 games, 125 games. It's not the case. It's not the case at all. In fact, they've only won 2 of their last 10 games. So they are gettable. There's not a team in baseball that is not gettable. Prime example, the Tigers are up 1-0 against Texas with Skubal on the mound. And it's the bottom of the 7th, 1 out. And the Rangers have a guy on first and third. So all teams are gettable. All teams. Which to me, the more competitive a league is, the better. Just hands down. Hands down. All right. Well, 2K crew, my apologies. It wasn't the kind of MLB trade breakdown that I had hoped, but we'll get you next week. Hopefully we'll have more info and some more rumors to go over, and If I do see them on Twitter, I'll go ahead and pull them and we'll talk about them. But yeah, everyone have a great week. Um, probably some, excuse me, probably some more football talk here coming up soon because it is almost August. And when we get to August, that means college football. Then once college football hits, it's NFL football. So we're almost there, ladies and gentlemen, even though I'm definitely not wishing my MLB season away or my summer away for that matter. Well, everyone have a great week. Well, we'll see you next week, hopefully with 2Ks in tow. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.